Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new deep dive. This time we're tackling a career path that I think you're going to find pretty fascinating. Um, we're taking a look at transport health and safety inspectors, and we've got some really cool material from RoleCatcher to help us out. I'm really curious to get into this.
Yeah, it's definitely a career that's maybe not on everyone's radar, but it's more vital than many people realize. Keeping our transportation systems running safely?
For sure. I mean, it's something we all rely on every day, right? Like whether
Yeah.
you're taking the bus or ordering something online, someone's got to make sure all that happens without a hitch.
Absolutely. And that's where these folks come in, transport health and safety inspectors. They're the ones working behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly.
Yeah, and to help us understand what these inspectors actually do, we've got, well, our expert here. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. It's a field I'm really passionate about.
So, from the Roll Catcher Guide, we can see that these inspectors are all about safety standards and minimizing risks, right?
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like day to day?
Right. It's more than just ticking boxes. Think of it this way. Imagine a cargo ship gets hit with some bad weather. Maybe it's delayed getting into port. Now, that might not seem like a huge deal,
Oh,
but
I see where you're going with this, all those ripple effects, right?
exactly. That delay impacts the entire supply chain. Suddenly, you have trucks backed up, perishable goods are at risk, businesses start losing money, and it can snowball from there.
Wow, so it's a lot about anticipating those kinds of problems before they even happen.
Exactly. And a good transport health and safety inspector isn't just checking off boxes on a form. They're thinking about the whole system, trying to identify potential issues, those weak points before they become big problems.
So it's really a big picture job then. It's not just focused on one mode of transportation.
Absolutely not. You're talking road, sea, air, rail, even pipelines. If it moves people or goods, chances are a transport health and safety inspector has something to do with it.
And the technology involved, that's got to be pretty intense, right? The guide mentioned AI and even biometrics. Like what?
Oh, yeah, technology is transforming the field, no doubt. And AI, that's a game changer for sure. Think about software that analyzes weather patterns, shipping routes, even social media, for goodness sake, all to predict potential disruptions. It's like having a crystal ball almost.
That's wild. And you mentioned biometrics. What role does that play?
So biometrics, it's all about identification, making sure the right people are where they should be. Think fingerprint scanners or facial recognition, but in a transport setting. Controlling access to hazardous materials, for instance, to ensure only authorized personnel are handling sensitive cargo. It adds another layer of security to the whole system.
So we've got all this incredible technology, this massive responsibility. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder, who are these transport health and safety inspectors? What kind of person thrives in this kind of role?
That's actually a really important question, and it gets to the heart of what makes this career path so interesting. It's not just about technical knowledge.
Right. The Role Catcher Guide actually made that point really clear. I was surprised to see soft skills, like persuasion even, and social perceptiveness.
Hmm.
They're right there alongside the more technical stuff.
Absolutely. Because think about it. One day you could be out talking to truck drivers, getting their perspective on a new safety protocol. And then the next day you're in a boardroom presenting those recommendations to executives. It's a very diverse job in terms of who you're interacting with.
So you need to be able to connect with people from all walks of life, basically.
Exactly. And not just connect with them, but understand their point of view, communicate effectively with them, regardless of their background or their level in the organization. It's about building a culture of safety.
That's such a good point. So it's like almost a negotiation or a collaboration, maybe, to make sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to safety.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about knowing the rules, it's about understanding the people who are impacted by them too.
Yeah, I never would have thought of it like that. Reading about this role, I saw psychology listed in the role catcher guide. And I thought, psychology, what does that have to do with transportation safety?
More than you might think. Imagine this. You're implementing a new safety protocol, but you're meeting resistance, right? Maybe some longtime employees are resistant to change, they're used to doing things a certain way. Well, a transport safety inspector who understands human behavior, that inspector can anticipate those challenges. They can address those concerns in a way that actually resonates with people.
So you need that human touch for sure. It can't just be all about, rules and regulations. You've got to understand how those things actually impact people on the ground. And speaking of learning, expanding your knowledge, I was really interested to see how much role catcher emphasized professional development. It wasn't just like, oh, you learn it once and you're good.
Right. It's definitely not a set it and forget it kind of career. Things are always changing. Technology, regulations, the types of challenges you face.
It definitely keeps you on your toes, I imagine. I mean, there was a whole list in the guide. Transportation regulations, risk assessment, incident investigation. It seems like you can never stop learning in this field.
And for someone like you, who's clearly intellectually curious, who likes to dive deep, that's got to be exciting, right? It's a career path that allows you to be a lifelong learner, which is pretty awesome.
Definitely. And with all that learning, with that constant growth, I'd imagine there are some pretty solid career advancement opportunities too. The guide mentioned a clear path from, those entry-level inspection roles to more senior positions.
For sure. This isn't a dead-end job by any means. You can start out doing hands-on inspections, get experience across different areas, maybe specialize in something like maritime safety.
Or maybe aviation security.
Exactly. And eventually you might move into management, maybe even get to the point where you're developing safety strategies for entire mutinies.
That's amazing. So you're not just applying the knowledge you've gained, you're actually shaping the future of safety in your field. Especially with all those emerging technologies we were talking about earlier, like AI, self-driving cars, drone deliveries,
Yeah.
and with all that stuff coming down the pipeline, who even knows what this field is going to look like in 10, 20 years? It's kind of mind-blowing.
No doubt. That's what I think makes it so exciting. You're not just reacting to the present, you're actually shaping the future of transportation safety. It's a pretty awesome position to be in if you think about it.
It really is. It's like we can imagine self-driving trucks and drone deliveries, but what are the safety protocols for that going to look like? Who's going to be responsible for making sure that technology is used safely?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's not a simple answer either. It's not like we can just take the existing rule book and apply it to these new technologies.
Because now you're dealing with algorithms, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a human driver you can talk to.
Right. You've got AI making decisions potentially in life or death situations. So how do you design safety protocols for that? How do you even begin to assess the risk of a drone delivery route, for example? These are the kinds of questions that transport health and safety inspectors of the future are going to have to grapple with.
Wow. That is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
So those core skills we were talking about, like problem solving, thinking critically, being able to adapt to new situations, those are going to be more important than ever.
Absolutely. This is not a field for people who are afraid of change, that's for sure. You need to be comfortable with ambiguity, with constantly learning and adapting.
Hearing you talk about it, it strikes me that this career path really does offer the best of both worlds. On the one hand, you're making a real difference, you're keeping people safe,
Yeah.
but it's also intellectually stimulating. There's always something new to learn, a new challenge to tackle.
You got it. And I think that's why a lot of people in this field, they find it so rewarding. It's challenging, for sure, but it's never boring.
Well, I have to say, I'm feeling pretty inspired right now. We've only just scratched the surface, but this deep dive has been seriously eye-opening.
It's been my pleasure. Like I said, I'm really passionate about this field, and I love getting the chance to share that passion with others.
Well, you've definitely given our listeners a lot to think about. And for anyone who wants to learn more, I highly recommend checking out the RoleCatcher Guide. They have tons of great information on there, from salary expectations to interview tips, all specifically for transport health and safety inspectors. You never know, maybe one of our listeners will be the one pioneering those new safety protocols for self-driving cars, or designing the next generation of risk assessment algorithms.
Now, that's a thought, isn't it?
It is. It's exciting to think about. But for now, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive, everyone, and a huge thank you to our expert for sharing their expertise and insights with us today. Until next time.